Welcome back, folks. In today's video, I'm going to be doing something that I don't think is all that common anymore. Matter of fact, I haven't done this myself in quite some time. I'll be interested to see what the consensus is in the comments down below. But we have a vacation coming up. Week from today, we want to pull a trailer to where we're going, so we're going to take my 160,000 mile 5-liter F-150 right here, and there's a handful of things I need to get done in preparation for our big trip. So I am a bit rusty on this stuff, but the channel name is Dig Drive DIY, so I guess I'll give it my best shot.
Dig Drive DIY!
If you bought a Ford 100 years ago, you were expected to be able to work on it yourself. Matter of fact, many cars of those early days came with a toolkit to ensure you were properly equipped to handle any number of roadside repairs. And even though the cars were pretty simple then, you still had to know some maintenance basics. So it was assumed that most car owners could change their own oil, fix a flat tire, or even swap out the spark plugs while on any given road trip. With the general public these days, I don't think that is very common anymore. Actually, I've seen folks struggle just to get their hood open, or even put air in their tires. When I got my first car, I was forced to learn a lot of those basics out of necessity, because I was broke. I wasn't going to pay someone to work on my 1970s International Scouts or my 80s and 90s Fords, but being forced to do all your own repairs and upkeep on a vehicle is a great education. And it can provide a ton of satisfaction when you save a buck or two. I think any young vehicle owner should at least know how to change their own oil and swap out a flat tire. I continued to do all my own maintenance up until about 9 years ago when I got my first company truck. And then of course my employer took care of it for me. But now I'm back to owning my own truck, and I'm back to wanting to save a buck or two by doing all the basic stuff myself. The question is it worth the time I'll invest in it? And can I really save that much money over paying a shop to do it?
Ford, may I help you?
Yeah, can I have service, please?
Services, Angelo.
Yeah, hi Angelo. I wanted to see if I could get a cost estimate. I have a 2018 F-150 with the 5-liter. So my F-150 needs an oil change. It's got 160,000 miles on it, and it's due from the previous owner. I'm not so intimidated by that. It does have a noise. I think it's detonation, or sometimes they call it spark knock. Anyway, when you accelerate under load or it's in a higher gear, you get this bad pinging noise, knocking noise. That's one thing I'm nervous about. Changing the oil, not really a big deal, I don't think. But changing out the spark plugs, I don't know. Oil change, and air filter, and new spark plugs in that truck.
With the oil change, replacing the air filter, and then doing the spark plugs, you're going to come in about $360 on that.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Angelo. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
360 bucks. That's not bad, but I'd be interested in seeing what I can do it for myself. I need a bunch of stuff for my pickup.
Okay.
I have a 2018 Ford F-150, the 5-liter. I always like to make sure I'm in 4-wheel drive before I pull up onto those ramps. That way the front tires are pulling the ramps under them rather than pushing them if it was just in rear-wheel drive. So I always feel safer with a 4-wheel drive truck pulling onto ramps. What the heck is that? It's got a plastic drain plug. That actually seems kind of nice. I don't know. Doesn't bother me. Now, where is the oil filter? The spout is here. Filter's right there. Read oil. I don't know what that means. Can anyone decipher that? It's white oil then. Yeah, right. Short of 9 quarts. All right, well, the oil change is all done, and I have to say it was actually pretty easy on this truck. That drain plug wasn't difficult, even though it's different than what I'm accustomed to. That was easy to get out and put back in. The oil filter was easily accessible. And probably the hardest part is actually getting rid of the used oil. That's a challenge that anyone faces that does their own oil changes. I know you can recycle it at some of the auto parts stores, but I have that big 55-gallon drum barrel, and that takes me over 10 years to fill it up. And then I have a friend that burns waste oil in a waste oil heater. So as long as you have a way to dispose of the oil properly, you can save some money and have a little fun. It's enjoyable to do. I want to move on to the next thing. So I got 2 more things actually. I want to change out the air filter, which should be really, really easy. Since we're going to be taking this off to do the air filter, we'll take off the rest of this stuff on top, the air intake system here, the tubes, and that'll give us access to what we need to do for the spark plugs. This right here is the air filter. And the spark plugs are actually underneath these little coil packs right here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 on this side, and of course 4 on the other side for 8 total. So I did a little research at YouTube University prior to tackling this myself. And honestly, this truck doesn't look too bad. Now, if you remember my previous white F-150, that was a company truck. And for the last 8 years, I've driven that, and I never had to do any maintenance to it. So I'm a little bit rusty, like I was talking about. The truck that I owned personally before that was a 5.4 liter F-150, and that one was a bear to change the spark plugs. Matter of fact, I did it once, and I think 6 of the 8 spark plugs broke off in the cylinder heads, and you have to use an extraction tool to get them out. So that one was like a kind of a level 8 skill challenge. Whereas this, from everything I've read and researched from YouTube, looks pretty straightforward. Now, compared to the old engines that I grew up on of the 70s, the Scouts, International Scouts, and old Ford pickups where you just had a spark plug screwed into the cylinder head and then a spark plug wire connected to the top of that. This actually has the little coil packs connected with a rubber boot to each spark plug itself. So you have to remove the little coil pack from on top and the rubber boot connecting to the top of the spark plug, and then you can get in at the spark plugs. So I'm hoping this won't be too bad. Otherwise, let's just get these coil packs off and get the plugs out. So that's the first one on the passenger side. Now, what's different about this passenger side is it has this fuel pump is right here. Take this piece of foam insulation off for that fuel pump. It's probably just to cut down on the noise. The only weird part about this one is you have to remove this fuel line in order to get to that spark plug tube. So that's the trickiest one. So here's our next coil pack. There's one in this cavity here, and our last coil pack back here. 1, 2, 3, 4. There, it came right off. Oh, that's gas. Yeah. There we go. A regular spark plug socket has like a styrofoam insert in it that holds the plug in the socket. And I'm sure that there's one in this shop. I don't know where it is, so I'm using a magnet to reach down there and grab the spark plug and pull it out. Here's the new plug going in. I don't have the spark plug socket, so unfortunately I just gotta let it drop in there kinda. But you gotta start it with your fingers and make sure it's straight, not cross-threaded in the head. That one feels good. Thread it all the way down until it's tight with your fingers. The difficult side is done and all put back together. I like doing the difficult side first because now the driver's side should be much easier. Probably shouldn't have said that. Right, the old plugs aren't necessarily in terrible shape, but they do show signs of wear. And the way you can tell is if you look at a new plug, the gap on them should be about 50 thousandths. So I'm taking a feeler gauge set here, and I'm taking the 30 thousandths and the 16 thousandths, which is about 46. The specs are 46 to 51, something like that. So I'm running that in there like this, checking the gap, and that's pretty good. That's right at 46, 47. Now you look at an old plug. Hopefully the camera is focusing. Look at that gap. That side was definitely a breeze compared to the other side. And the other side wasn't that bad. Last thing to do is an air filter, and that looks like it's not filthy, but it's definitely time. That's an easy fix. Well, it's all buttoned up. Let's see if she starts up. My remote start isn't working. My remote start isn't working for whatever reason. Guess I'll have to start it with the key. Maybe it didn't work before, I don't know. Sounds right. Nice and smooth, no miss. How about the remote off? The remote off works. Well, everything sounds right to me. I don't hear a miss. Engine is running super smoothly. I don't know, all that's left is to go get the trailer, hook it up, give her a little test run, and get loaded up for our trip. All right, now comes the fun part. All right, well, let's just give this a quick listen to see if I hear any more of that spark knock or that detonation. Might have heard it ever so slightly, but it's way better than it was. Normally in the morning when I leave with a cold engine like this, I can really hear it. There, it did it just a little bit. That's better, definitely way better. If I put a tank of premium gas in here, that would probably help it too. I think there's a definite improvement in the responsiveness, and the noise is greatly reduced. I hear it ever so slightly. I don't even know if it'll show up on here, but it was bad before, so I'm happy about that. Oil filter and spark plugs were $142 from Napa. So for being a relatively new vehicle, this truck was pretty easy to do some routine maintenance on. Even easier than my previous 2010 F-150 pickup. Everything was relatively accessible, and it didn't require any fancy tools. So if you're so inclined and able-bodied, it's very doable. And in a world where we're all trying to save a little bit of money anywhere we can, this is an easy option. It can be done despite the common misconception that modern vehicles might be too difficult to work on. Plus, YouTube University is a tool they didn't have in their kit 100 years ago. Well, I think that's about everything. At least I hope. That isn't just ours, that's my entire family's stuff. We got kayaks and beach toys and golf clubs and fishing gear, you name it. We're headed off to Tennessee to spend a week at Norris Lake, and I'm looking forward to it. Well, the truck made it no problem. I'm glad I changed out those spark plugs and got the oil changed, and it really was kind of rewarding. But I don't know, let me know down in the comments. Do you change your own oil still, or do you send it off? What's your thought process on that? But I'll be looking forward to hearing from that. In the meantime, I want to thank you so much for clicking on this video. I hope that you liked it, and if I'm lucky, I'll see you in the next one. All right, we got some vacationing to do. I think that this is a tire pump that came with a Model T or Model A, I'm not sure. It's got a wooden handle. $1924, $2024. I'll take this.